Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of the day it is. Welcome to Ms. Perkins' Literature class. Hello, everyone. Nice to have you here for lesson number 4. So, I get set up. Here we go. All right. So, today's lesson, move all of this for you here. We're going to talk about first, who's talking. So we're going to do a quick review. Remember, the big umbrella is who's talking. In a story, we have a narrator, and in a poem, we have a speaker. When we think of first person point of view, we're thinking about the character inside of the text, where everything is about the character. So they're using words such as I, me, my, our. It's all about them. Third person point of view, the person that's talking is outside of the text, and they're telling a story or talking about a person or events in a poem about someone else. Okay, so they use the pronouns he, she, or they. So that is our quick review for who's talking. So now let's practice. Sarah, Cynthia, Sylvia Stout would not take the garbage out. She'd scour the pots and scrape the pans, candy the yams and spice the hams. And although her daddy would scream and shout, she simply would not take the garbage out. Who's talking? What clues do you see? What pronouns do you see? Is this first person or third person? Do you see first person pronouns or third person pronouns? Excellent job. Great. You said she'd. Awesome. Fantastic. That is a contraction. She would. Those two words are put together, but the pronoun she is used. And then we also see where it says her. The next pronoun is her. So those two pronouns indicate that this is being told from the third person point of view. Now, is this the person talking, a narrator in a story, or a speaker in a poem? Now look at the structure. And I see lines, not so much sentences. And I see some rhyming. So I can make the inference that this is a poem. And because this is a poem, I know that the person who's talking is a speaker. Now, who are they talking about? Take a minute, read it. And as you're reading, think to yourself, who is this speaker talking about? Fantastic. I heard Sarah, Cynthia, Sylvia Stout. Excellent job. Good. And I also heard she'd and her, which are both pronouns referring back to Sarah, Cynthia, Sylvia Stout. Great job. All right, so now what's the main character's conflict? Let's see. Look for clues. You guys are amazing. Yes, the conflict is about taking the trash out. So let's think about this for a little bit. Is that Sarah, Cynthia, Sylvia Stout's conflict? Or is not taking out the trash the dad's conflict? I think that the dad is the one who is bothered by Sarah, Cynthia, Sylvia Stout not taking the trash out. I think that that's his conflict. I think that Sarah's conflict is her father is worrying her about taking the trash out. That's what it sounds like. We'll see. How does the character feel? So we have two characters. We're going to think about how does the Sarah, Cynthia, Sylvia Stout feel? And then how does her dad feel? Good clues. So she'd scour the pots and scrape the pans. That should have an R there. Scrape the pans. Candy the yams and spice the ham. So she pretty much feels it's like she's unbothered by this whole thing of her dad worrying her about taking the trash out. And it sounds like there's a lot of trash, so maybe she might be feeling overwhelmed. We'd have to continue reading the poem to see. Let's see. How does her dad feel? It says, although her daddy would scream and shout, she wouldn't take the garbage out. So he wanted her to take the garbage out, and he was screaming and shouting. So we can infer that he's feeling angry, frustrated, agitated, mad. Great job. All right, so today's focus, we are going to continue to draw conclusions and make inferences using text for support. So we have essential, critical vocabulary words. Point of view, we are already familiar with this. The narrator of a story, speaker of a poem, is it first person or third person point of view? Character emotions, this is another word or another vocabulary term that we've seen before, and it means how a character feels. Our new word is perspective, and perspective is the way that a narrator or character may see something. So now let's go ahead and let's look at our video that I made, by the way, first go around. All right. And I used Adobe Spark, which is a lot of fun. You can make movies on there. You can do little commercials, a lot of fun. Point of view. Point of view impacts perspective, how the narrator sees things. What's the narrator's perspective? What does the narrator think? And how does the narrator feel? What's the character's perspective? What does the character think? And how does the character feel? The way that narrators or characters may think and feel about something may be very different. How do we know the narrator's perspective? By what the character may say, think, or do. By what other characters may say or think about the character. Drawing conclusions and making inferences about what is read assists us in determining point of view and perspective. All right, so what we are going to do now is we are going to get ready to read our book, The True Story of the Three Little Pigs. But before we do, I have created a Venn diagram, graphic organizer, to help me with my thoughts. So at the top, you see those two lines. I'm going to compare, when we are finished, the true story of the Three Little Pigs to the actual story of the Three Little Pigs. And I'm going to think about, when I do my Complete my graphic organizer. I'm going to think about the narrator, character, feelings, and perspective. So on my outer circles, those are the differences. And in my middle circle, that's the similarities that I'll find. All right, so let's go ahead and read. And so I'm going to come out of here so I can make sure you can see the pictures of the book. All right, so right this way. Starting off where we stopped yesterday. I'm going to read the page before, just in case anyone has forgotten. I had just grabbed the doorknob when I felt another sneeze coming on. I huffed and I snuffed and I tried to cover my mouth, but I sneezed a great sneeze. And you're not going to believe it, but this guy's house fell down just like his brother's. When the dust cleared, there was a second little pig, dead as a doornail. Wolf's honor. Now you know food will spoil if you just leave it out in the open. So I did the only thing there was to do. I had dinner again. Think of it as a second helping. I was getting awfully full, but my cold was feeling a little better, and I still didn't have that cup of sugar for my dear old granny's birthday cake. So I went to the next house. This guy was the first and second little pig's brother. He must have been the brains of the family. He had built his house out of bricks. I knocked on the brick house, no answer. I called, Mr. Pig, are you in? And do you know what that rude little porker answered? Get out of here, wolf. Don't bother me again. Talk about impolite. He probably had a whole sack full of sugar, and he wouldn't give me even one little cup for my dear, sweet old granny's birthday cake. What a pig. I was just about to go home and maybe make a nice birthday card instead of a cake when I felt my cold coming on. I huffed and I snuffed and I sneezed once again. Then the third little pig yelled, and your old granny can sit on a pin. Now, I'm usually a pretty calm fella, but when somebody talks about my granny like that, I go a little crazy. When the cops drove up, of course, I was trying to break down this pig's door, and the whole time I was huffing and puffing and sneezing and making a real scene. The rest, as they say, is history. The news reporters found out about the two pigs I had for dinner. They figured a sick guy going to borrow a cup of sugar didn't sound very exciting. So they jazzed up the story with all of that huff and puff and blow your house down, and they made me the big bad wolf. That's it. The real story. I was framed. But maybe you could loan me a cup of sugar. All right, so now let's jump back over here. We are going to do our comparison by completing our Venn diagram. Okay, so on the left side, I wrote the true story, and I know that this is written in first person point of view, and the person or the character is the wolf. I know that the wolf feels misunderstood, and his perspective is he is innocent. On the right side, I put the three little pigs. It's written in third person point of view. The narrator is telling a story about the little pigs. The narrator feels convinced, he is sure, he is confident. And his perspective is he believes, he's confident that, he's sure of the fact, he is convinced that the wolf is guilty. In the center, Both stories are similar because they're stories. They have character setting, plot events, they're fiction text, and they both have narrators. Now, I want to stop and mention something to you. Throughout this whole process, when we think about point of view, identifying the narrator of a story, character traits, character feelings, character perspective, those are all skills that require us to make inferences and draw conclusions. So although sometimes we think making inferences and drawing conclusions are really challenging, we do it every day, all day. We take information and we use our own background knowledge in order to make an educated guess about something. So you guys did an awesome job making inferences throughout this entire process. So what you are now going to do, or later on, you're going to complete one activity in each column of your choice board. For your readings listed on the choice board, please find my graphic organizer. Please do not forget to compare and contrast the characters' perspectives and feelings from the text using a Venn diagram. So we're going to look back at this. When you complete your activity, you could do it two ways, okay? One way is you could take one story and you could take the two characters in the story and you can compare the characters. So you first write down their name, character one's name, their feelings, their perspective on the conflict. Then in the circle on the right, you write down the other character's name, you write down their feelings, and you write down their perspective, how they see the conflict. Okay. Then in the center, you would write how both characters were similar. Now, you would not need to include the narrator if you're comparing people in the same story. Or, yes, a story and a poem. If you are using two texts, you want to make sure that at the top you write the name of one text on the left, the other text on the right. And then you would also write down whether a narrator was used in both texts, whether a speaker was used in both texts. You would write down the characters from both texts, different circles, their feelings and their perspectives. And then in the center, you would write down how they're similar. Okay, so similar to what I did here. The true story, the three little pigs. I wrote down the narrator, first person. I wrote down the character, I wrote down the character's feelings, and I wrote down the character's perspective. And then I did the same thing for the three little pigs, the narrator, the character's feelings, and the character's perspective. And then in the center, I wrote how they were the same. So that is your assignment for this evening. You can compare and contrast two characters in one story, or you can compare and contrast two texts. Okay? All right, so that is it for lesson 4. You guys, as usual, did an amazing, fantastic, fantabulous job. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow for our final lesson on fiction. Point of view, narrator, narrator, speaker, point of view, first, third person point of view. See you tomorrow.